Good day, friends of Buzzy. Well, we are now in our almost second week of the Pfizer EUA for children 5 to 11, and I'm getting a ton of friends asking me how to help their very anxious blank-year-old. I happened to go to the Marietta Public Schools this weekend to do a vaccination event. And unfortunately, they canceled the CNN press and all the other press because of parents protesting them offering vaccines, which is just an insane part of the way we live right now. But we did have a lot of people that had the ability to be fear friendly, and we took the sting out of shots. And of course, we had about 364 kids who got vaccinated. Many of them got protected with Buzzy. So good times. Today, therefore, I have some very firsthand updates on things you can do to help your very anxious child get vaccinated. Now, it is going to be a different approach at different ages and based on what your child's temperament is like and based on what experiences your child has had before. So I'm going to start by going over the links to the articles that I like best in the media, and then what I would nuance on top of that based on some recent experience and just based on what we know from a standpoint of addressing pain, fear, and focus. Okay, so the first article I read that I really, really liked is by Dr. Naya Hurd-Garris. She is at she's at Lurie Children's, and she trained at Children's National, which is where Dr. Leslie Myers-Joseph, my roommate in med school, practiced or trained. And so she wrote for the New York Times a really good article about all sorts of aspects of the psychological, the pain, how to talk to your child about shots, all that sort of stuff. So we'll put the link in the comments, but that is one article that I highly recommend. The next one is resources that come from the Meg Foundation. Now, we have mentioned the Meg Foundation before. The great thing about, and we had Dr. Jody Thomas on our show as a reference. So Dr. Thomas started the Meg Foundation after working at Stanford with pediatric psychology and dealing with needle fear and how that impacted not just procedures and children with chronic diseases, but children who went out into adulthood afraid of needles. So she has very firsthand experience with the fact that we are preventably causing a lot of reluctance for healthcare as adults. Her website and her charity are the Meg Foundation for Pain, and themegfoundation.com has an amazing resource. So here's the first tip of the show. If you have a child who is anxious about needles, then I strongly suggest you talk to them about getting the injection before they go and use some aids to help figure out exactly what bothers them about needle fear and how to make it better. So what they have at the Meg Foundation is a chat bot that you can go through with Super Meg, a superhero who takes you through and lets the kid say, I want this or this. I want to have them count down, or I don't want them to mention it at all. I want to use Buzzy. I want to use a topical anesthetic. I want to use, numbing cream. They don't say topical anesthetic, but it is age related, and it is very easy for a child then to come up with their poke plan that you can see other places in our Facebook page. And that poke plan is something the child can then take with them. When we were at Marietta Schools, we tried to have some of our adult poke plans modified for kids to use. And at the moment, it was just too much to decide. I also think, especially for younger kids, it's better to just go in and go with the flow unless you know for a fact that they're very anxious about shots. So the Meg Poke Plan is a really good way to talk about things with kids. Now, one nuance that we also experienced was the kids who are extremely bright, very oriented to numbers and procedures and things like that. They're probably people that it's good to ask them about what their experience was before. so that you can say, okay, what was it exactly you remember that you didn't like? Why are you worried about this? What is it that's bothering you? And then you can say, you know what, you don't need to be as bothered. This is going to be really different. Whether it is a different number, whether it's because now they're older, which they definitely are by definition, whether it's because it's not going to be at the doctor's office, any of those things that you can help emphasize how it's a different experience now than it was when they were bothered, that will help. The other thing is the really bright children are worried about what their peers think of them. They're worried about, what if this doesn't go away? What if I always feel this way? And this is an opportunity to implant the concept and the idea that they will be able to get over this. This is an extremely normal thing. Anybody who is held down to get 4 or 5 injections when you're 4 years old is not going to feel positively toward any experience that's like that going forward. So if you can emphasize that this is actually going to be different than what happened the time before, also that taking 3 good experiences will decrease their pain and fear by half, and it allows kids to get over it so that it's not a big deal when they're teenagers and when they're older. I've got a couple ideas that I put in a previous post, but I do think that for some of these kids, helping make a contingency plan, it's like, all right, if you freak out, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to stand up and do this. Okay, how can I help you not do that? Do we want to have a word? If you stand up, do you want me to remind you that you can then come and sit on my lap in a comfort position? Make a plan and make it so that your child is set up for success, even if they have 1 or 2 times that they're like, no, I can't do this. It's like, this is the time I tell you you can. This is what I'm telling you what we're going to do afterwards, and now we're going to come sit down. But that kind of thing, it is worth the investment, because every good experience gets you closer to reducing that pain and fear by half. All right, so the next really good resource after the Meg Foundation and Dr. Hurd-Garris's is one that Nicole O'Brien found on the Cincinnati Childrens website, which is my alma mater for where I trained. And it is by Dr. Sorensen. We'll put a link in here. The thing I really like about that is that this one does emphasize talking to kids beforehand about what they need and what the options are. The one nuance I would add to Dr. Sorensen's is that while she does suggest Buzzy, she also says that it can be used with or without ice. And the Meg Foundation actually doesn't even mention ice. I agree. It's a pain to bring ice to the doctor with you, but I will say that the ice for an IM injection adds about 50% more numbing. For an IV, yeah, it's probably not as, it's only adds about 10%. But for an IM, it does add a lot because you're going in deeper. So what I would do with that is, if it's too cold, we discovered, really it's fine to let them hold the ice wing in their hand. Second thing is that really the ice for a COVID vaccine only needs to be on about 30 seconds for a thin or a small child. And so those 5 to 11-year-olds who are on the scrawnier side or have scrawny or deltoids, those guys, I would certainly use the white side of the ice wing, and I would have it on for a shorter period of time. The other thing that I would say about the ice is we are working on making a little chill bee bag or cold to go, very open to your feedback on what suggestions you would have for names, and also whether or not you'd want it to be black with the logo on it or have a different color or different color options. But names for the bag would be great if you can think about it. But I should have brought a prototype. It's about that big, and it holds the ice wings and it will keep them frozen solid for about 2 hours. So a really good option going forward, because we do know it's a pain to bring those ice wings. All right. Another place to look for ways to deal with needle pain at older ages is our website. So on paincarelabs.com/needle-phobia, we have a whole lot of research about what can help, not just with pain, but also with fear and with panic for older kids. Now, there are a number of places where I've seen things I'm not going to link to, where they talk about using shot blocker or numbing creams or things like this. The problem is if you've got a fear, then numbing creams, first of all, LMX is the one most people can get over, is the only one you can get over the counter. There's not a single study on intramuscular injections in LMX. Everyone conflates it with EMLA, eutectic mixture of local anesthetics. EMLA is great. EMLA will descend in about 6 millimeters. So the needle's going to go in farther than that, but at least you're going to be numb for most of it. So EMLA, yes, there is data on the 4 to 6 year shots. Now, EMLA did not work for the 11, 12-year shots. So there, I think you need to go a bit more cognitive, but EMLA did work for the 4 to 6 year shots. So on the younger end, EMLA did work. Older, there isn't really good IM data for it, and there certainly isn't good IM data for LMX. So one of the things that we have a lovely intern who's been doing research, and this is everything that has been looked at for pain and what actually works. So if you look on this side, so this is control with no intervention. And the thing is, based on the environment and the ages of kids, there's going to be different levels. So on a 1 to 10 scale, with 10 being up here, so you can see that this Bilgen study here, they had a pretty high rating of pain. And then when she used shot blocker, or he, I don't actually know, pain was lower, but then with Buzzy, it was lowest there. So each of these different studies, you need to look and see what their own control is. But in general, intramuscular injection pain here, and then you can look over and see on that what the comparative were. So overall, if you look, the topical anesthetics, roughly equivalent to Buzzy on this one study, but there's actually just not very many. There should be 2. It got cut off, but there's 2 studies on topical anesthetics. Both of them are EMLA. Buzzy, you've got a number of studies. Now, distraction, the pain is lower here, but if you look, you can see that the controls for a lot of these studies were also lower. So here is one. There's one that has a control study arm right there, and then with Buzzy, it was lower. So anyway, in general, you can see what the differences are. Cold spray, which a lot of places are using pain ease. Cold spray actually can often increase pain for kids. So that's a pain, literally. Only one study found it, and I'm not sure whether Dr. Cohen-Rice was funded by them or not. Buzzy does not fund studies because I think it just leads to conflict of interest and difficulty ascertaining whether the results are real. So we don't fund studies. If you want to do a study, God bless you, go for it, but we're not paying for it. It's also because I feel like somebody told me once that that you ought to be able to get funding from a government or some, if it's worth doing, it's worth getting funding from someone other than what you're studying. So that's part of my bias, I think. Anyway, so from a pain management standpoint, I do think topical anesthetics, if it's not going to make your child anxious, use EMLA and use Glad Press and Seal. Instead of putting it on with Tegaderm, which is very sticky and can sometimes hurt to peel off, if I were going to use a topical anesthetic, I would use EMLA and I would use it with Glad Press and Seal. Now, adding distraction is helpful. So if you look at the distraction comparisons in this, which we'll post this picture up there, but what's most useful is adding a pain reliever and distraction. And the distractions that are most helpful are ones that engage the whole brain. So virtual reality is actually as effective as Buzzy in 2 different studies. And so there you've got a really intense distraction. So I'm sure if you put them both together, you'd get a much better response. Things like blowing out make sense, like blowing a pinwheel. There's not the best data for it. Certainly music does not have good data. Blowing bubbles is not as good as doing a cognitive task. So distraction cards actually have great data, and combining that with other stuff is a really good idea. Okay. Final thing, we do have magic tricks for needle sticks, which are different helpful ideas for different ages. These are free. These are downloadable on our website. If you're buying something anyway, they're also free on our Pain Care Labs website. So if you're getting a Buzzy on shop.paincarelabs.com, you can add these on. If you're not getting something, you're going to have to pay shipping for them. I would just download them off the website because that's free. So these are options. And the final thing that we've added that I'm very excited about, so people talk about what do you do for rewards? I would not base the reward on whether or not they successfully complete the shot, because they're probably going to. And the thing is, the kids who are self-aware, they know that they don't deserve a prize if they completely lost it and freaked out. But what they might deserve is some recognition for the thing that they did do well, that they can do better next time. So what we've done is we made a Buzzy Bravery honor roll. And so you've got, hear ye, your person is granted the order of the official Buzzy Bravery honor roll. This allows you, and we have this on our website for download, and you can either make your own stickers, or if you want to download it plus getting our stickers, then you have to pay for that because we have to send you the stickers. But so the idea here is that the stickers have different characteristics, and you can reward your child honestly and recognize something in the morass of the breakdown, freak out that may ensue. Something about it was good, though. Something was worthy of praise. So is it that they were a good helper? Or maybe, at least if nothing else, they were cool? Or perhaps that they were very patient because they had to wait. And so even if they ended up not being happy with their own behavior, at least they were patient, or they were just brave. I mean, you can't be brave unless you're scared. So if they were scared and they conquered some of that fear, that's brave. And they can also be awesome, or maybe they had a sense of humor. So these stickers are ways that you can reward your child for the part that the child would agree with you deserves being rewarding. I think what the research clearly shows now is that praise for attributes that the child knows aren't true are just confusing to a child, and they don't reinforce behavior. What you do want to do is be accurate and specific in praise so that it really shows that you understand and you recognize something that the child would be proud of about themselves. So surely in all of those different words, there's something that your child did that they themselves would feel proud about. All right. Well, this has been a medium-sized event, and hopefully the different references we have, the different links, and the fact that we have spent a good 15 years thinking about this will come in handy for your child. I wish you all the best. If you want to look at any of our other videos about how to get a flu shot without freaking out, if you're a teenager, if you're an older adult, by all means, check out our YouTube site on Pain Care Labs. And please like and subscribe if you're seeing this on YouTube. Let us know what kind of content you want, and good luck. But thank goodness we're just about to be able to get boosters for all adults. We can now get shots for kids. And so I am more than ever feeling like it's going to be fine.